Behind the palace gates of Dubai lives a woman more powerful than most presidents and more private than any celebrity. From $400 million yachts to secret royal charities, Sheikha Hind's world is woven in gold, silence, and influence. But her life is not just about luxury. It's a high-stakes performance of power, politics, and purpose. Watch until the end. Because what you'll discover in Part 8 will change everything. Complexities of royal marriage. In public, it's protocol. In private, it's diplomacy. Behind the walls of Zabil Palace, where gold chandeliers illuminate marble halls, Sheikha Hind navigates not just royalty, but a system built on silence, hierarchy, and ancient rules of succession. Hers is a story not just of privilege, but of performance. As the senior wife of Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, she occupies a position that is both revered and remarkably complex. This is not just marriage, it's monarchy. And monarchy in many Gulf states comes with plurality, not privacy. In a world where power is shared between bloodlines and appearances, polygamy is politics in domestic form. Sheikha Hind's status is rooted in lineage, but also in restraint. She is rarely photographed, her voice is seldom heard, yet within the palace ecosystem, her influence runs deep. Royal events, family councils, and decisions over education, succession, and protocol often pass through her unseen hand. Her mastery lies not in spectacle, but in strategic invisibility. But invisibility carries weight. Within a polygamous structure, every gesture can be read as assertion or defiance. Appear too often, and you're seen as challenging others. Stay too quiet, and you risk fading from relevance. Sheikha Hind's ability to balance these pressures speaks to a level of emotional intelligence and political navigation that few understand, and even fewer survive. There are whispers of rivalries, of competing households, of children vying for prominence, of wives establishing their own courts. Yet, Sheikha Hind remains unshaken. Some attribute it to her maternal role over 12 children, others to her ancestral ties to the Al Maktoum bloodline. But insiders know, her stability is not inherited, it's engineered. She chooses when to be seen, when to host, when to issue statements through philanthropy or fashion, even the distribution of designer gifts. A Hermes scarf here, a Rolex there, is orchestrated not as luxury but leverage. In royal households, influence is often measured not in titles, but in who gets summoned, and by whom. To the outside world, this life looks gilded, but beneath the gold lies a matrix of emotional calculus, where every family photo, every seating arrangement, every absence from an event could signal favor or fallout. This is not marriage as the West knows it, it is internal diplomacy, practiced daily in silence, dressed in silk, and enforced by centuries of unwritten law. And in that space, Sheikha Hind doesn't merely endure, she reigns, quietly, strategically, unforgettably. Zabil Palace, the crown jewel of Dubai. Tucked behind layers of palm-lit avenues and discreet armed security, lies a structure that makes Versailles feel modest. Zabil Palace, the beating heart of Dubai's royal dynasty. But this isn't just a home, it's a throne built in stone, gold, and silence. With over 150 rooms, this sprawling estate stretches across acres of manicured gardens, crystal fountains, and rare imported flora. Its interiors are wrapped in 24-carat gold leaf, Italian marble, and Swarovski-drenched chandeliers, each one custom designed by luxury artisans from La Maison Baccarat. The palace isn't just built to impress, it's built to overwhelm. Step inside and you'll find reception halls big enough to land a helicopter, corridors lined with Mughal-inspired archways, and majlis chambers that rival the interiors of the Vatican. Every hallway echoes with the footsteps of dignitaries, fashion moguls, and heads of state, all walking on Persian rugs that individually cost more than most family homes in Europe. But what truly sets Zabil apart? The private zoo. Yes, within palace walls exists an ecosystem of exotic animals, cheetahs, flamingos, rare Arabian oryx, and even Siberian tigers, all living in conditions that surpass most international sanctuaries. This isn't just a display of wealth, it's a reflection of Sheikh Hind's personal passion for animal welfare, which reportedly commands an annual maintenance cost of over $10 million. Zabil Palace is more than architecture, it's political theater. a calculated balance of heritage and hyper-modernity. Emirati tradition meets global elite aesthetics. One wing of the estate maintains ancient falconry halls, another holds a state-of-the-art media war room. It's where power dresses in Elisab gowns and whispers behind Hermes curtains. From the sky, Zabeel is unmarked. From within, it's a labyrinth of influence. Designed for secrecy, engineered for awe. Every stone laid under Sheikha Hind's influence serves as both legacy and leverage. Comment Zabeel equals power if you think palaces like this don't just house royalty, they define it. The $400 million yacht Dubawi and her floating kingdom. When the palace walls can no longer contain power, it spills into the sea. More discreetly, behind Dubai's most exclusive marina, the Dubawi is not just a yacht, it's a sovereign vessel. $400 million fortress that sails with the aura of a queen, wrapped in white steel and silence. Originally built as a cruise liner and later transformed into one of the most opulent private yachts on Earth, the Dubawi spans over 525 feet, dwarfing most Royal Navy ships. But unlike warships, its artillery is subtle. Gold-trimmed suites, hand-carved teak decks, and a design language that whispers royalty rather than shouts it. There are multiple helipads on board, not for show, but for seamless arrivals by royals, dignitaries, and global influencers. Below deck, a full-service spa, onboard cinema, cigar lounge with Versace upholstery, and a saltwater pool that reflects the Dubai skyline. Some rooms are lined with silk imported from Loro Piana, others furnished with custom pieces from Fendi Casa, hand-selected to mirror the interiors of Zabeel Palace. Staffed by a multi-central crew trained in both maritime protocol and high-scented hospitality, the Dubawi functions as a mobile palace, ready to depart at a moment's notice, not just for leisure, but for royal strategy. It's a floating embassy, a negotiation chamber, and sometimes a refuge. Every inch is wired for security and privacy, ensuring that what happens on board stays locked beneath layers of discretion and steel. But what makes the Dubawi uniquely Sheikha Hind's is its understated majesty. No flashy logos, no public tours, no magazine profiles. The yacht glides quietly, cloaked in exclusivity. Those lucky enough to board are vetted not just by protocol, but by trust. It isn't just a symbol of wealth, it's a test of access. In the hierarchy of global luxury, land is legacy, but sea is freedom. The Dubawi isn't just hers to own, it's hers to command. A maritime extension of royal authority that answers to no border, no passport, no scrutiny. When she steps aboard, the rules change. And the world watches from a distance it can never quite cross. Global real estate empire. Some rulers conquer land through treaties, others do it through deeds and offshore trusts. Sheikha Hind's real estate empire spans continents, climates, and cultures, forming a silent kingdom without borders, where wealth wears a different architecture in every time zone. Her crown jewel abroad is the Long Cross estate in the United Kingdom, a sprawling $95 million countryside estate nestled in Surrey, less than an hour from London. Originally built in the Edwardian era and later restored with no expense spared, the mansion whispers both British nobility and Emirati grandeur. Think hand-carved paneling imported from Venice, climate-so-vital vaults for couture collections, and a dining hall longer than a Boeing 7747. It's not just a home, it's a royal outpost in the land of monarchs. But the UK is just the beginning. Rumours persist of a French vineyard villa tucked into Provence, where private dinners with European royals are said to happen behind centuries-old iron gates. In Switzerland, whispers speak of a discreet chalet overlooking Lake Geneva, purchased not for skiing, but for privacy, legal neutrality, and the ability to host unofficial diplomacy away from the public eye. And then there's the Maldives compound, an archipelago within the archipelago. Satellite images show solar-paneled villas connected by overwater bridges, with privacy walls shielding from any aerial drone. This isn't vacation, it's escape. Engineered with military-grade discretion. Even the security teams rotate identities. Each home serves more than lifestyle, they're assets in a wider strategy. In geopolitics, property equals presence. These estates are positioned with surgical intent. near financial hubs, next to embassies, within reach of global influence. The Longcross property, for instance, lies just minutes from Royal British airfields and MI6 adjacent neighbourhoods. Coincidence? Hardly. Even the interiors are coded. Furniture by Bentley Home, drapes from Dedar Milano, and custom lighting fixtures by Lalique are not just luxuries, they're signals. Every brand placement is a cipher to the circle she moves in. Every material is curated not for comfort, but for meaning. This is not real estate for shelter, it's real estate for legacy. In a world where power is judged not by what you say, but where you sleep, Sheikha Hind has turned addresses into quiet instruments of sovereignty. While others build empires in public, hers is mapped in property ledgers, airspace records, and invitation-only corridors of global diplomacy, private jets, and high-flying royalty. For most, air travel is about getting from one place to another. For Sheikha Hind, it's about controlling time, space, and the narrative. Her fleet of private jets doesn't just fly. It moves with intention, elegance, and absolute silence. Anchoring her aerial empire is a customized Boeing 787 Dreamliner, reimagined not as a commercial plane, but as a flying palace worth over $300 million. Inside, you won't find rows of economy seats. Instead, you enter a world of hand-stitched Laurel Piana cashmere upholstery, gold-trimmed ceilings, and a conference room wrapped in baccarat crystal lighting. It's where royal diplomacy is conducted above the clouds and without interruption. The Dreamliner is flanked by two Gulfstream G700S, each valued around $75 million. These jets aren't just fast, they're engineered for discretion. Equipped with air-to-ground encrypted comms, biometric entry, and radar jamming technology, they're as much about privacy as they are about prestige. In a world where information leaks are currency, silence at 51,000 feet is worth billions. Every aircraft interior is custom-built, private bedrooms rivaling the presidential suite at the Burj Al Arab, prayer rooms facing Mecca with GPS-calibrated orientation, and spa-like lavatories using Aqua de Palma amenities. Even the galley is a culinary command center, rumored to have hosted Michelin chefs for mid-flight tastings over the Mediterranean. But beyond luxury, these jets represent mobility as power. In one morning, Sheikha Hind can leave Dubai, attend a UN-affiliated summit in Geneva, hold private meetings in Paris, and return home, all without the world knowing she left. No customs, no press, no delays. Just control. What makes this fleet more than metal and money is how it supports a lifestyle that defies borders. In her world, geography bends to the will of the itinerary. And the jets? They're not just transport, they're territory. Comment "Sky Sovereign" if you believe some palaces come with wings. Fashion, identity, and power. In the world of royalty, fashion is not a pastime, it's a weapon, and no one wields it with more silent precision than Sheikha Hind. While she rarely grants interviews and almost never speaks on record, her wardrobe communicates on global frequencies. Every outfit is a coded message. Every appearance is a move on the chessboard of power. Sheikha Hind's collection isn't just extensive, it's one of the most exclusive on Earth. Inside her walk-in vaults are limited editions Hermes Himalaya Birkins, each valued upwards of $400,000, housed in climate-controlled chambers to preserve their crocodile leather and diamond-encrusted hardware. Alongside them sit Chanel haute couture gowns, some custom-designed by Karl Lagerfeld himself, now irreplaceable relics of fashion history. A daily wear isn't merely curated, it's choreographed. For state receptions, she opts for Elie Saab silk kaftans threaded with 24-karat gold embroidery, often accessorized with brooches from Cartier's royal collection. For philanthropic events, she chooses muted palettes from Maison Rabie Kairouz, signaling empathy without compromising elegance. These sartorial decisions are never about trend, they're about message, mood, and meaning. What makes her style so commanding is its paradox, rooted in tradition, yet globally modern. Her abayas are tailored with Parisian finesse, her scarves hand-dyed in Florence. Even her heels, often custom Christian Louboutins, are designed to meet the unspoken dress codes of both diplomacy and discretion. But beyond elegance lies strategy. In Middle Eastern courts, visibility can be dangerous, so Sheikha Hind's approach is minimalist luxury, garments that blend then captivate. Photographers scramble for even a glimpse, and when that glimpse comes, it dominates headlines. Her wardrobe choices have appeared in Vogue Arabia, Tatler, and internal embassy memos, not because of their beauty, but because of their symbolism. In a region where fashion is often framed by tradition, Sheikha Hind bends that frame without ever breaking it. Her style serves not just personal expression, but soft power projection. She uses fabric to say what protocol forbids. And in doing so, she shapes perception, not just of herself, but of her nation. In the palace hallways and on the global stage, fashion is her language, and it speaks fluently in wealth, restraint, and authority. Her closet isn't just a collection, it's a diplomatic archive in silk, leather, and gold. Philanthropy as power, diplomacy. In most countries, philanthropy is charity. In Sheikha Hind's world, it's infrastructure. Her giving isn't a sidebar, it's a parallel kingdom. And like everything else she touches, it's wrapped in discretion, executed with precision, and branded in quiet opulence. Behind the scenes of Dubai's modernization are dozens of privately funded initiatives, many with no official government seal, but all moving in tandem with Sheikha Hind's vision. At the heart of this empire lies the Al Maktoum Foundation, a philanthropic powerhouse that has poured hundreds of millions into education reform, maternal health, and gender equity. While the Emirates' skyline glows with ambition, it's these programs that ensure its foundations are human. But this isn't philanthropy for headlines, it's diplomacy folded into humanitarian infrastructure. In education, Sheikha Hind has championed the development of elite institutions modeled after Harvard and Sciences Po, with campuses funded through trusts and endowments exceeding $500 million. Some of these schools are so exclusive they admit fewer than 50 students a year, each selected not just for intelligence, but for leadership potential. In healthcare, her influence goes deeper. Rumors point to her personal involvement in the creation of women-only wellness centers equipped with Philips robotic surgery suites and Siemens hybrid diagnostic labs, facilities rivaling European medical hubs but tailored to the cultural needs of the Gulf. These clinics operate quietly, but their results speak loudly. Reduced maternal mortality, increased cancer screenings, and wellness initiatives that push life expectancy benchmarks higher each year. And in women's empowerment, Sheikha Hind doesn't issue statements, she writes checks. Some estimate her personal contributions to microloan and programs and entrepreneurship grants for Emirati women exceed $200 million, funding everything from artisan collectives to fintech startups. These aren't small gestures, they are systemic recalibrations of influence, designed to make women visible without inciting backlash. Her philanthropic footprint is vast, but what sets it apart is its surgical intent. Every initiative reinforces internal stability while elevating Dubai's image abroad. At global conferences, diplomats cite these programs not as PR, but as policy. When world leaders discuss Middle Eastern reform, her name surfaces, not as a figurehead, but as a strategist. In a region often misunderstood through its excess, Sheikha Hind uses giving not to counter that narrative, but to rewrite it. Her philanthropy is not a reaction, it's architecture, and its blueprints are built to last long after the gold fades. Behind the glamour, controversies and global scrutiny. From the aerial view, Dubai glistens like a utopia of progress. Glass towers, royal palaces, Lamborghinis weaving past mosques, and cranes stretching into the desert sky. But beneath that vision of power and prosperity lies another narrative, one where Sheikha Hind, despite her composed elegance, must walk a tightrope between global admiration and quiet internal resistance. She is the most visible, invisible woman in the region, and with that visibility comes pressure, not only to embody grace and poise, but to reconcile tradition with the modern world's watchful gaze. Her platform, once immune to public inquiry, now lives in the crosshairs of international human rights groups, Western media, and digital whistleblowers. The controversies aren't hers personally, but they orbit her life. Allegations of authoritarianism, reports of female family members allegedly restrained or silenced, and persistent questions about freedom of expression in Dubai have painted a more complicated picture of royal power. For Sheikha Hind, this isn't just background noise, it's the context she must constantly manage. Every philanthropic effort she launches, every school or hospital she opens, now doubles as a message that progress is possible without rebellion. But critics ask, can symbolism replace reform? One of the sharpest critiques focuses on gender. While Sheikh Hind champions women's rights through initiatives valued in the hundreds of millions, global observers still question how much autonomy women in her orbit truly possess. Can luxury, measured in $400,000 Hermes bags or $300 million private jets, exist without also demanding transparency? Can royal privilege and grassroots empowerment coexist? Even Zabiel Palace itself, with its 150 rooms, private zoo and gold-detailed interiors, has been caught in the spotlight. Not for its extravagance, but for the way it contrasts with the call for modern governance. The same palace that hosts diplomats also symbolizes a kingdom resistant to critique. And yet, Sheikh Hind continues to hold her ground, not with loud rebuttals, but with quiet consistency. She remains visible enough to inspire, discreet enough to avoid provocation. Her silence is strategy. Her presence, however veiled, remains powerful. But in today's world, veils are no longer barriers, they are lenses, and more eyes than ever are watching. Comment, power, or performance if you think royal life today is more about image management than tradition. Sheikh Hind's billionaire lifestyle isn't just a story of opulence, it's a mirror reflecting the silent mechanics of modern royalty. In a world obsessed with visibility, she thrives on calculated invisibility. From fashion diplomacy to quiet philanthropy, she redefines what it means to hold power without speaking. If you found this journey into Dubai's most private queen as captivating as we did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop your thoughts below. More untold billionaire stories are coming, stories you won't find on the news, but only right here. Stay tuned.